Hi, my name is John Q, and I'm an addict in recovery. And I, when I first came around, I heard people turn around and say, "We'll love you till you learn to love yourself." And I had a hard time understanding that at first. I mean, I heard it sounds real good. Like when people say that, you know, it sounds pretty good. And like I wanted to talk about loving yourself. And at least how I do that, and or how I've learned to do that, because at first when I came into recovery, like all I remember, when I first came around that I used to hate me like big time. I hated who I was. I hated everything about me. I hated the fact that I had ruined my life. I hated that I had done so many things to so many people, and I just, you know, thought that there was nothing good inside of me, that there was nothing. I even believed that God hated me, for what I had done, and the things that I had, so many things that I had done, that I was hated, and all I remember was like seeing myself like in a corner of a room, crouched down, you know, like, like, just, like hiding in the corner of a dark room, and that's who I was. And as I kept coming, like people, they loved me, and they told me to keep coming back, and they kept telling me that they loved me, and they loved me when I was feeling down. They loved me when I hated myself. They loved me when I didn't like myself, when I didn't think that I should belong here. Like they continued to tell me that I belong. They told me that that they loved me, and that it was all right for me to be me. And I, like I remember, like, when I wanted to hang out with people, because I didn't think people wanted to hang out with me, so I would actually pay, like I would offer to pay, like to take, to go to restaurants, and I would offer to pay all the time. I say, it's my treat, it's my treat, and then like I remember, like, taking a bunch of people to the restaurant and telling them that, I told them that it was my treat, and they came with me to the restaurant to eat. And like, I went to pay, and they said, no, 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 we got this, like we got this. And like that totally like floored me. Like it surprised me that people, paid their own bill, and that they wanted to hang out with me, and that, like, oh my goodness, like it makes me even want to get so emotional right now. Like I really want to cry. But like I couldn't believe that these people wanted to hang out with me, and what I learned about that I learned that, like, it was all right to be, that I that that I love, that it taught me to accept myself, to accept me, and to be all right with me, and to love myself, to the point, like, today, like, loving myself means staying clean no matter what. Like, like that's how I express love to myself. Like, I'm not using. That's how, every time I don't use, I'm saying I love you, John. And and every time that, I practice some steps, or I practice some principles, I'm saying I love you, John. Like every time, that I say a kind word to somebody, I'm saying I love you, John. Like, every time that, like taking care of my kid, or doing things at home, that help, that are beneficial to me. Like I'm saying I love you, John. Like, like today, like I remember, like I used to drive, my car, and I would never wear a seatbelt, and like I had to learn how to put my seatbelt on, and I didn't know how to do that. Like, I mean, I was so rebellious. Like I wouldn't drive with a seatbelt, because I thought that was uncool and everything. Like, yeah, you can't wear a seatbelt. That's not cool at all. Like, you can't wear a seatbelt. And like, of course, I got couple of times I got stopped, and I got a warning ticket, and thank God I didn't get a ticket, but like I got a warning ticket, and like I started, like, like realizing that, that I was putting myself in danger driving without a seatbelt, and it was my form of like saying like it was like my form of self-hate, and what I remember doing is like now when I put my seatbelt on, I put my seatbelt on and I say, I love you, John. Like, that's my way of saying I love you, John. I put my seatbelt on. Like, every time I follow the laws, like that's my way of saying I love you, John. Like every time that I pay my rent, I'm saying I love you, John. Like every time I pay my bills, I'm saying I love you, John. Like all these things are my way of saying I love you, John. And like that's how I learned to love myself. Like, today, like I can't see myself not doing these things for me because these are the things that are expressing love to me. Like every time that I pray to God, I'm saying I love you, John. Like every time that I reach out to other people, I'm saying I love you, John. Like every time I ask for help, I'm saying I love you, John. Like every time I go to the doctor, I'm saying I love you, John. Like all these things is like my way of saying I love you, John. You know, and you know, and that's how I love myself today. And I think like when we say we'll love you till you learn to love yourself, like that's how we love you. By sharing our experience, strength, and hope with you, and sharing about how we love ourselves and how we practice love. And that's you know so you could see what you need to do, and by doing all these things that we do that says I love you, because a lot of times you don't really know what we mean. Like a lot of times people they don't know what we mean when we say we'll love you till you learn to love yourself. Like I mean, you might think it means sexually or some shit. You know what I'm saying? You might think that it might mean something else, and like you have to keep coming back and realizing that there's a lot of things that we do to love ourselves. And like because I learned to love myself, like I was able to teach my daughter, like I was able to love her, and me loving her was my way of saying I love you, John, too. And me, loving myself, like I was able to teach my daughter how to love herself. Like you guys taught me to be a better father. Like you taught me to be a better husband, and a better brother, and a better son, and a better family member. My goodness, like there's so much that I got out of just loving myself. And like how much I love myself today. Like I won't allow myself like I won't allow anything to hurt me, because I love me. I love me to that point. And sometimes it feels uncomfortable for me to turn around and it seems kind of strange, sometimes for me to say, yeah, I love me. Like I love me, because it seems so like egotistical or something like that. But the truth of the matter is that that's where I'm at. Like you guys taught me how to do that. And like I love some John Q today. Like I love some John Q. And hopefully y'all love me too. At least those who know me and stuff like that. And I'm not the perfect, like I'm not perfect in everything, but like I've learned even to love that. Like the things that I dislike about myself, I still love me beyond that. Like I dislike some things that I do. I don't like, like those things, but it doesn't mean that I love myself any less. And I've learned to accept those things about me. And I'm so grateful for the love that so many people gave me, and for the love that taught me to love myself. To the point, beyond words that I can express. This is really about it is about having a love affair with yourself. And a love affair, and like like that there's that old saying that comes from that big that other book, that spiritual book that a lot of times people don't want to mention, in recovery. But um we'll love love your neighbor as yourself. And you can't really, like, I don't really believe that you can love anybody until you love yourself. And there was somebody who 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 I love very much in recovery, who said, if you truly, if you can't truly, you can't love anybody until you truly love yourself. And that is so true, so true in my life, and anyway, if nobody told you they love you today, I love you, and so does God in my understanding. And thank you for listening.